I've said this before, but I'll say it again. When I record something for a video, when I assert my opinion on this, that, or the other thing, I try to say something that's not just getting on the bandwagon, even if it's a bandwagon that I agree with, even if it's like something where there's a lot of sound and fury about an outrage that I also think is outrageous. I just don't really think if I don't have anything really to add about it, then I don't really feel the need to pipe in with and intrude upon everybody's consciousness, everybody who clicks on this video's consciousness with just a rehash of what they've already heard a bunch of times. But if there's some new or unthought of aspect of some phenomenon, then that occurs to me, then I feel the need to speak up. And here's the thing about all of this anti-2020 sentiment, which I share. I on the Affirmative Right podcast that I did with Colin Liddell and Richard Wollstonecraft, I talked about how 2020 was a shitty year, and I think I was reflecting what most people feel. It seems to be a universal phenomenon that 2020 was a really bad year, to the point now that, even on a woke platform like Netflix, they've got this comedy special. I haven't watched it because I just don't feel the need to, and I think it'll probably be lame and probably be a waste of time. But the title is Death to 2020. And you hear this kind of sentiment among everybody, that 2020 was a terrible year. And here's what's counterintuitive about this to me. And I haven't heard anybody else say this before, so that's why I'm saying it now. It would seem that if you were of the left persuasion, if you were of the persuasion that's like, right on, we need to do something about police brutality, we need to do something about all this white supremacy that's running amok everywhere, and we need to pull down these statues of evil white men, and we need to just kick this racist system in the ass and show all these white privileged people that they're terrible, and they need to crawl back under a rock where they belong, and yeah, burn, loot, murder, BLM, burn, loot, murder, and so forth. These kinds of people, really, you would think that they would be saying, or these kinds of people and the kind of people who support their mindset, maybe who didn't go out rampaging, maybe didn't pull down any statues or burn down any buildings or do anything like that, but they still have Black Lives Matter, yard signs and bumper stickers. The kind of people like the dwellers of Druid Hills in Atlanta that I visited last week and shared some of my thoughts about, and so forth. And there are, white upper class neighborhoods like that everywhere. All over the country, in urban settings mostly, of these just enlightened, woke, lefty, liberal, smug types that consider themselves better people for having embraced these kinds of ideologies that are thought of as marking them as being superior, for having adopted them. They're better than all those rednecks in middle America who cling to their guns and who like to go to church and all that. Okay, I'm indulging in stereotypes here, but it is to a large extent true. These are true stereotypes. Anyway, you would think that these kinds of people would be saying, hey, you know what? 2020 was a pretty good year. Yeah, the virus thing kind of kind of threw everybody off kilter. Of course, these are the same kind of people who believe that, you should wear masks everywhere, and that lockdowns are good, and that, it's only stupid, evil rednecks who want to end lockdowns and so forth. Again, indulging in stereotypes, but, we've all seen them play out, haven't we? So yeah, maybe they would say, it was that the pandemic was bad, but you would think that they would also say, but you know what? We really stuck it to them this year. 2020 was a great year because we marched in the streets, we demanded justice, and justice was given to us, and we made them quail before us, we took down the Orange Man, and 2020 was great, man. But you don't hear them saying things like that. You just don't. And you would think that they would. You would think that they would say, at least, that 2020 was not so bad because we got justice. No justice, no peace. Silence is violence. End white supremacy. Defund the police. All that business. You would think that these kind of people, they were running amok. They were getting their way. They were being heard. They were being, they weren't just being heard. They were like, for a little while there, they were the only thing that it was considered to be worth hearing. They were all that you ever heard about on social media. I just remember in June and July, on Instagram, getting all those, from people that, some of them I knew, some of them I barely knew. Instagram, by the way, is the only social media that I'm still a part of. But they all of a sudden those black boxes, those, yay George Floyd, F the police, F white supremacy, virtue signaling black boxes everywhere. Everybody posting a black box. And it was like the only thing that was worth talking about. So you would think that people like that. And of course it culminated in Trump losing the election. Thank fraud. God. Fraud. So anyway, you would think that there would be some positivity about that. It's interesting that in spite of all of that, there is still this persistent anti-2020 mentality that is widespread amongst all people. Even the most ardent of SJW activists seem to think that 2020 was a sucky year. And that's an interesting phenomenon. It's an interesting thing to note. What do we make of it? Well, I'm not sure what to make of it, but I do think it signifies something. It signifies that maybe deep down, even those who are most persistent in their proclivity to keep reality at a distance from themselves, i.e. the SJW liberal left types, even they could not escape the whiff of doom that pervaded this year that has this year of our Lord that has now expired. And even for all of the gains that they made, they still, you can only hide from the truth for so long, and it has its revenge upon you. And so again, ultimately, the hatred of 2020, the anti-2020, the mentality, the notion that, oh boy, like on New Year's Eve, like, oh it's so great to be getting out of this year. I'm so glad we're moving into a new year. Boy, 2020 sure sucked. You didn't have to be a right-wing, Trump-supporting conservative, virus denying, as they would call us, conservative. You didn't have to be any of those things to think that 2020 just sucked balls, absolutely. And that it's one of the most terrible years you've ever experienced, and hopefully one of the more terrible years you will ever experience on a macro scale. So that's my identification of what I think is an interesting aspect of the anti-2020 mentality, the fact that it applies even to those who you think would be very pro-2020 as far as what they believe they accomplished in that year. And I think, I don't know, this is my attempted explanation for it, but I'd be very interested to hear if anybody else has an intelligent take on this matter. Please share it below. Thanks for watching. My name is Andy Nowicki, and you can check out my work. Please do check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.